In the quiet hours before dawn, when the desert air cools and even war seems to pause, a low mechanical hum crossed the night sky, unseen, unheard, and unstoppable. A drone slipping through darkness toward a small American outpost that most people on Earth had never heard of and never would, until the moment it was struck, a moment measured not in minutes but in milliseconds, when explosive force turned routine military life into chaos, killing 3 U.S. service members in an instant and transforming what had been another distant, low-intensity shadow conflict into a crisis that reached the highest levels of American power. Because in modern warfare, death does not need a battlefield, a declaration, or even an enemy wearing a uniform. Only a signal, a payload, and a target. And as word of the attack spread from desert radios to command centers to the Pentagon itself, something older than doctrine and deeper than strategy began to stir. The unspoken understanding that when Americans are killed, the response must be visible, decisive, and controlled. Not out of vengeance, but to restore a balance that exists only because everyone involved fears what happens when it collapses. And so the question that followed was not whether the United States would respond, but how. How to strike back without igniting a regional war, how to punish unseen hands without confirming their power, and how to send a message loud enough to be heard in Tehran, Damascus, Baghdad, and every militia command bunker in between, without saying a single word out loud. The American presence in Syria was never meant to become permanent, nor was it ever meant to be central to a broader geopolitical struggle, but history rarely follows intent. And the roots of this crisis stretch back more than a decade to the collapse of Syria into civil war, the rise of ISIS from that chaos, and the international coalition that arrived not to conquer territory, but to dismantle a caliphate that had declared itself an enemy of the modern world. And while ISIS was eventually broken as a territorial power, its defeat created a vacuum, and vacuums in the Middle East do not remain empty for long, because into that space moved Iranian-backed militias, hardened, ideologically driven, and increasingly sophisticated, groups that did not challenge the United States head-on, but instead adopted a strategy shaped by decades of asymmetric warfare, striking indirectly, denying responsibility, and operating in the shadows where escalation is controlled not by treaties, but by habit and restraint. And for years, this uneasy arrangement persisted, with American forces conducting patrols, training partners, and monitoring ISIS remnants. While militias tested boundaries through rockets, roadside bombs, and drones, each attack calibrated to injure but not provoke, to signal resistance without triggering retaliation, a balance that held only because everyone involved understood the consequences of miscalculation, until that balance broke. Not because of a massive invasion or a dramatic declaration, but because a single drone attack crossed the most dangerous threshold in modern military conflict, the deliberate killing of American personnel, transforming Syria once again from a frozen conflict into an active front in a much larger, far more dangerous confrontation. In the days that followed, the region reacted not with celebration or outrage, but with caution, as militia leaders issued defiant statements while quietly relocating assets. Iran denied direct involvement while absorbing the message being sent, and U.S. commanders assessed not body counts but behavioral shifts, fewer launches, altered supply routes, and changes in communication patterns. Indicators that deterrence, at least temporarily, had been restored. Yet beneath the surface, the fundamental reality remained unchanged because proxy warfare thrives not on victory, but on persistence. And while the strikes degraded capabilities, they did not eliminate intent, nor could they resolve the deeper strategic contradiction of an American military presence designed to prevent chaos, but inevitably entangled in it. And so the aftermath became a study in modern military paradox, where success is measured by what does not happen. No wider war, no mass retaliation, no spiraling escalation, even as the conditions that produce the crisis remain intact, leaving analysts to ask not whether the strikes were justified or effective, but how long such a balance can endure in a region where every actor believes time is on their side. What followed the attack was not immediate fury, but calculated silence. As intelligence analysts reconstructed flight paths, electronic signatures, and supply chains, piecing together a mosaic of responsibility that pointed not to a single trigger puller, but to an entire ecosystem of proxy warfare, where drones are assembled in one country, guided by intelligence from another, and launched by militias who exist precisely to give their sponsors plausible deniability. And within this system, the United States faced a dilemma as old as power itself: how to strike the enemy without strengthening them, how to retaliate without validating their strategy, and how to demonstrate resolve without feeding the narrative that America was once again at war in the Middle East. And so the response took shape not as a single strike, but as a campaign of precision, carefully sequenced airstrikes against weapons depots, logistics hubs, command nodes, and drone infrastructure inside Syria. Targets chosen not for symbolic value, but for their role in sustaining future attacks, all executed with weapons designed to hit exactly what they were aimed at and nothing else, because restraint itself had become part of the message. And as American aircraft crossed into Syrian airspace under cover of night, launching precision-guided munitions that shattered concrete bunkers and storage facilities, the strike spoke a language every military actor in the region understood: that the United States would absorb harassment, tolerate ambiguity, and even accept political inconvenience, but it would not accept the killing of its personnel without.